Chattanooga is the fourth largest city in the state of Tennessee. It sits along the border of two states, Tennessee and Georgia, along the Tennessee River. As of 2020, the population came in at 181,099 residents, and that number is expected to increase due to the rapid growth in the metropolitan area. It is known for certain scenic city attractions, such as the Chattanooga Choo Choo, Ruby Falls, the Tennessee Aquarium, and Rock City. However, despite the city's largest tourist attractions, Chattanooga is also known for its deep, dark secrets of hauntings that plague the city. Whether it's the poltergeists that frequent hotels, the murdered Civil War soldiers that make appearances, the faded images of indigenous native peoples dancing around campfires, or the sightings of the undead among cemeteries and college campuses, the city is filled with the repercussions of the past. Follow me down the rabbit hole as we explore more hauntings in my original hometown and uncover some of the most terrifying places to live and visit. This is Haunted Hometown Horror Stories, Season 2. Welcome back to Shawnee's Law, and welcome back to our Haunted Hometown Horror Stories. This is actually going to be episode 6, the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga campus and Confederate Cemetery hauntings. Now, I actually attended this university, so I have a little bit of insight to offer. The University of Tennessee at Chattanooga is a public university. It is one of the 4 UT college networks in the state within the University of Tennessee system. While some may see it as a reputable educational institution, others may know it due to its reported paranormal activity. It also serves as my undergraduate alma mater. During my earlier teen years, I was made aware that the university's grounds were haunted while attending an after-school program. However, I did not know that it was actually located directly across from an actual haunted Confederate cemetery. Nevertheless, it is no secret that the Chattanooga's ridges, fields, and valleys were used as battlegrounds for some of the most bloody and gruesome fights during the Civil War. However, in the autumn of 1863, the Union Army swept through Chattanooga after losing a battle at Chickamauga, which is about 10 miles away from here. After these 2 gruesome and bloody days of battle, over 12,000 men were dead. Once the Union Army broke out of the Confederate Army's grasp, their General William T. Sherman proceeded to burn down a path straight down to Georgia. The deadly war resulted in many Confederate soldiers dying in Chattanooga at a local hospital and were buried in a rush cemetery setup between January through September of 1863. After decades of disappearing from abandonment, workers relocated some of the remains after discovering them while they were working on constructing roads and buildings in the burial area. UTC history and origins. The University of Tennessee at Chattanooga underwent many mergers and name changes over the years prior to settling on its current moniker. UTC was founded in 1886 as a private and a racially exclusive institution named Chattanooga University. Shortly after, in 1889, it merged with another college named Grant Memorial University based in Athens, Tennessee. It is currently now named Tennessee Wesleyan University. Together, the two were named U.S. Grant Memorial University. However, back in 1907, the institution changed its name yet again to the University of Chattanooga. Shortly after, there was another merger with the local college called Zion College. And that was established in 1949, and they decided to call this union the Chattanooga City College. Finally, in 1969, the college became the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga once it joined the UT system. UTC is also known as a reputable college with its vast selection of academic studies. Also, it has reputable departments in engineering, music, psychology, English, nursing, chemistry, accounting, and education. The university has over 140 majors and concentrations, over 50 minors, and 52 graduate programs and/or concentrations. This includes their highly ranked industrial and organizational psychology master's program, as well as the computer engineering and physical therapy PhD programs. Now, in regards to some of the Confederate Cemetery history and origins, it goes as follows. The Confederate Cemetery is actually located near UTC's campus between East 3rd and East 5th Streets in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Present day, they're trying to call East 5th Street, I believe, Mox Alumni Drive. We'll go over that map later on. So the cemetery was created due to the large amount of soldiers that died in the city during the Civil War, as well as some of the slaves. As discussed in previous episodes about the Sheridan Reed House Hotel, the Hunter Museum, the Chattanooga Choo-Choo, downtown Chattanooga, Ross's Landing, Chattanooga played a major role in the war in the South. Towards the beginning of the Civil War, Chattanooga was known as an epicenter and had makeshift hospitals such as the one that eventually became the Crutchfield House and later the Sheridan Reed House Hotel. This location is also known to be haunted, and guests and staff have reported seeing apparitions of dead Civil War soldiers. Many of the soldiers actually died in the makeshift hospital and were never given proper burials. Their bodies were quickly buried in graves without a second thought in a location where it is currently known today as downtown Chattanooga. Consequently, over the years, the area of the Confederate Cemetery was left neglected and unkept. It eventually became dilapidated and forgotten about for a long time. However, this changed in 1992 when Mayor Gene Roberts planned a way to renovate the cemetery. This would include digging up some of the graves and relocating them to different areas. Some say that this notion actually caused more harm than it did good. They disturbed bodies of the dead soldiers, leaving their restless souls to roam the cemetery grounds, causing them to be haunted. Strangely, there's a myriad of notable people buried in the Chattanooga Confederate Cemetery that made contributions to the city. So according to an article published on April the 20th, 2014, the Chattanooga Times Free Press says that there are 5 important Chattanooga figures that are actually buried in the Confederate Cemetery. The first being Samuel Frazier, whom was born in Rake County and was the first lieutenant in the 19th Tennessee Infantry. Once he was recovered, he was shipped up to a northern prison, still as a prisoner of war. Once the war was over, Frazier completed a series of tasks. Settled into Rake County, began practicing law, moved to Chattanooga to start a little town called Hill City in North Chattanooga, and donated $10,000 to help build the Walnut Street Bridge where Coolidge Park is today. Samuel Frazier died in 1921. However, a street called Frazier Avenue was named after him, which is located in North Chattanooga, aka the North Shore, which is next to Coolidge Park in Chattanooga. Next, there's a man named Martin Fry who enlisted into the Tennessee Infantry at the tender age of 16 and served in major battles in the Western Theater. After the war in 1865, he returned to his Middle Tennessee home, where he was arrested in Pulaski, Tennessee, and for being charged for killing a man and burning a bridge as well. However, he was later pardoned by a fellow Tennessean and the president at the time, Andrew Jackson. He went on to return to the then rural countryside of Alton Park and died in 1926. Third, there's Ben Golding, whom was known to be a notable philanthropist in the city, from beginning the Weather Bureau as well as other civic contributions after the war. He died in 1934. Fourth is Shadrach Saracen, an African American whom received a pension from the Confederate, chose to be buried in the Chattanooga Confederate Cemetery after his 2 brothers died fighting while serving in the Civil War. Saracen continued to fight for the Confederate Army and eventually moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee in 1903 to work on the railroad. He died in 1935. Lastly, there's Edward Wentworth, a notable sergeant in the Union's 19th Infantry from Michigan. He was captured at the Thompson Station in Williamson County by the Confederate Army and was transported to Chattanooga, Tennessee, where he eventually died. So, alright, so now that we've kind of gone over the history of both the cemetery and the university itself, it's time to get into the hauntings. Remember, you gotta know what went on to explain what's happening right now. So first we're going to talk a little bit about the university. We're going to talk about one of its most haunted places, Hooper Hall. One of the hauntings reported on the UTC campus was located at Hooper Race Hall, which in 1916 was the Records and Registration, Financial Aid, and Human Resources Department. At one point, it had to be closed down to a lead and asbestos abatement project. However, Hooper Hall is known for its large amount of administration offices and not classrooms, with the exception of a science lab. Now, back in January 1924, there was a grounds manager by the name of John Hawking, whom had recently lost his wife and child in a house fire. Overwhelmed and consumed with the grief, he decided to use the chemicals in the science lab at Hooper Hall to commit suicide via asphyxiation. Consequently, many say that Hawking's spirit still haunts Hooper Hall to this very day. Throughout the years, the staff has reported strange and unique activity in the offices within the building. Even the former dean's staff complained to him about hearing random cuckoo noises coming from his office while they were in the middle of a meeting. They were amazed to find out that in fact the manager did not even have a cuckoo clock in his office at all, so no one could explain where the noises were coming from. On another note, students reported that while being in Hooper Hall, that they could feel the presence of an unknown being watching them, hearing creepy footsteps across the old floor tiles and doors slamming by themselves. They also reported hearing heavy, fast footsteps behind them as if they were being chased by an invisible force. Now, when I was at UTC, Hooper Hall is across from Fletcher Hall. I was a business major, so I passed Hooper Hall often. It was closed down the entire 4 years that I was there. It was closed down. Nobody could come in. You had to have construction clearance to go in. They always said they were renovating and fixing it. I never saw that, but we knew it was creepy. It was haunted. You would get the eerie vibes just from walking by. I've never been in there, but you can tell there's some dark things that cover that place. So let's move on to the next one. The next haunted area is the Patton Chapel. Now, this is another location where the hauntings occurred, which is called the Patton House, which was established in 1893 and located in the Fort Wood National Historic District. It served as the House of Alumni Affairs Department as well. Also, there was a Patton Chapel, which is one of the busiest and popular sanctuaries in Chattanooga. A plethora of weddings and memorial services are held there annually. Even in the most sacred of places, the ghosts make their presence known in the on-campus church called the Patton Chapel. Reports by both faculty and students state that a woman wearing all white haunts the church. Unlike some spirits, she has been seen both day and night. The particular look of her attire indicated that she was most likely a nurse that provided medical aid to the wounded Civil War soldiers prior to meeting her own demise. Similar to the paranormal campus encounters, staff and students reported hearing voice whispers in silence and doors slamming without human assistance. However, the most frightening encounter was when it was reported that organ music in the chapel was being played eerily while no one was actually playing the organ. And yes, I've been in the Patton Chapel. Most specifically, there was a lot of senior awards and ceremonies that took place in the Patton Chapel. And there's a picture of me right there my mom took. She did not like being up in there. She said it was spooky, but she didn't know that it was haunted back when she took this picture of me. Moving on, Brock Hall and the Confederate Cemetery. The Confederate Cemetery lies along the side of the UTC campus, directly across the street from the UTC bookstore. Close to this area is another notable building called Brock Hall, which is now considered a landmark building on the campus. However, on the very same grounds where Brock Hall is located was a previous local jail for the Confederate soldiers back during the Civil War. Legend has it that executions also took place in the same spot prior to the troops being relocated. To make matters worse, the morgue and medical college were also located in the same building. Due to the horrible events that took place Students and faculty have all reported a plethora of paranormal activity occurring in the building. For instance, a Spanish professor named Dr. Roberto Rojas gave insight on some of the strange campus happenings. He described one instance where he temporarily left his office to grab some coffee from the campus food court across the street. However, when he returned to his office, papers and books had been thrown all across the room in disarray. To make things even more eerie, he also described another time when he was in a neighboring room to his office. He returned this time only to see piles neatly put back together. But there was no one there that had entered the room to straighten out the paper stacks. Other reports note that there's often extremely cold air circulating many floors of the building, despite scorching hot summer temperatures. Aside from the random cold winds and the strange unexplainable activity, students stated seeing shadowy figures on the building's stairwell. The students in the former medical building have reported seeing disembodied members of former Civil War soldiers. Now yes, side note, I too have been in Brock Hall. I remember specifically, I took a class my senior year first semester, and I hated it because my class was like from 3:05 to 4:45. It was one of those Tuesday and Thursday classes. It's real creepy on like the second and third floor in the middle of the day when nobody's around. So I always just thought that was kind of creepy. But I didn't know Brock Hall was haunted. I always just thought it was Hooper Hall, and that's the one people really talked about on orientation day. So present day. According to the Lunatic Project article, the city of Chattanooga removed itself as a trustee to the burial ground of the Confederate Cemetery. The mayor at that particular time, Andy Burke, stated, quote, that the city needed to focus on the future and not the past, end quote. While he expressed honor and condolences for those who had passed, he verbally rejected white supremacy by saying that he would not stand by what the Confederacy stood for during that time. While some may find the former mayor's settlement admirable, others found it to be a way to hide Chattanooga's wicked and racist history. Some of the controversy was sparked back in March 2016 when some maintenance workers accidentally discovered an old grave of a black soldier named Shadrach Searcy. He was a former slave born in 1845 and died in the mid-1900s. However, he died while still in servitude in the South. Historians were elated to find the grave of someone that they had been looking for so long throughout the years. Now, as stated in the previous videos from this series, the Civil War is an infamous and notable part of Chattanooga, Tennessee's overall history. The Confederate Cemetery is still a prominent fixture next to the University of Chattanooga's campus. Consequently, the institution's students and staff have spoken out about the Confederate flags that still fly in the winds and the monuments immortalized in the past. In regards to the hauntings, UTC does not shy away from the infamous ghost stories. Instead, they honor them every Halloween with a celebration, and they also allow local company called the Chattanooga Ghost Tours to hold ghost hunts with equipment to search for paranormal activity. So overall, if a place was plagued with the past of forced labor from the transatlantic slave trade, the Trail of Tears, and the top 3 most deadly battles of the Civil War, do you think all of those spirits will be able to rest in peace? I think not. Now, before we close out, I did take a little mini field trip down to the campus of UTC, and I got some footage of the cemetery. I cannot believe I worked at that bookstore a whole summer across from that cemetery and never knew that it was a Confederate cemetery. Started with some old graves, I had no idea. It was very well kept, very well manicured. So in 2022, I can tell you they're keeping up with that graveyard. Check this out. Okay, so this is the UTC cemetery, Confederate Cemetery. Can't believe I used to work across the street from here. Whole time, had no idea. Some of the campus. Right there where that little awning is the bookstore. I used to work there for like a summer before the semester started. And this is the cemetery. much of this I can get. It looks well kept to me now. What y'all do to it? Ooh, squirrel. Say hi, YouTube. All right. Well, that concludes episode 6 of our Haunted Hometown Horror Stories. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Shanae. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all in episode 7. Protect your energy.